Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. By the way, I'm talking to Rosie Pova, Rosie J. Pova, and I just had an epiphany. Today is Earth Day, and 55 years ago today, I went to the first Earth Day. I was a young kid, April 22nd, 1970. So it's been 55 years. I went to the first Earth Day, and I've never been the same since. It had such an impact on me. And in one shape, way, or form, I've been an environmentalist. 55 years. I care. I do whatever I can as one person. I helped to form a global little think tank, and we used to get together every couple of months and talk about issues. But anyway, more importantly, I'm with Rosie J. Pova. She is a coach for authors, picture book authors. And she's also a prolific children's book writer, and we're going to talk about that. Her journey to come here to the States has been an interesting journey, and the work she does interesting because she coaches authors and helps authors do publishing traditionally. I'm a self-published author, as I was telling Rosie, and so that's the simpatico. I'm self-published, and she works with traditional, and it consumes my life. So there's great synchronicity here. So this makes for a really interesting interview. And bearing in mind, I've interviewed probably 50 authors, literally all over the world. So it's especially meaningful and poignant for me to spend some time with you now, Rosie. So my monologue is officially done, finished. And why don't you do a little background and then we'll start talking. Take it away.
Yes, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. So I'm Rosie J. Pova, as you said, and I'm a children's book author and writing coach for aspiring picture book authors as well, pursuing traditional publishing and trying to get an agent and trying to break into the business. I've learned the hard way how tough it is, and I had a long journey myself. So I just wanted to give back and share everything that I've learned and just to be helpful to other authors so that they don't have to go through all the struggles and all the disappointment and mistakes and just confusion. It's too much. So there's an easier way when you focus on the right things and follow a system and things like that. Even though, yes, traditional publishing is very competitive, as we talked, before this, and it's hard to break into it, but there's a way. Certainly, it's not impossible, and that's what I do. I've been in this business for 20 plus years now, and I enjoy it a lot, and that's what I do full time.
Wonderful. I mean, listen, it's my life. My life is consumed with my second novel, which got a Kirkus star, and facing the mountains, literally mountains to climb, uh, getting this out there. It's hard to get a Kirkus star, and I got it. So what do you do with it?
Congratulations. Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
that's
So
great.
so this makes for a particularly meaningful interview. And again, so much of what I have done is with authors, and probably they're all, and you know what? They're not all self-published. There's a great mixture. There's actually, I deal with a lot of academics, and they've got their university presses, and so I've interviewed quite a few of them as well. So um, let's jump into this. Um,
Yes.
so I'm always curious, because what motivated you from being a published author to a mentor for other writers? That's
Yeah.
yeah.
I think yeah, the journey naturally involved as I, touched on that because once I was able to publish a few books and I started teaching classes or webinars and people always had questions and it felt really good to be able to answer and give, some guidance and be helpful and just share my experience and what I've learned. And when the pandemic hit, I was approached by a company who was teaching classes. They had been teaching here in Dallas in person, but then everything switched to being online. But they didn't have a children's book instructor, so they invited me to come on board and teach children's writing and publishing. And of course, I said yes because that was on my heart anyway. So I just had to kind of sit down and figure out the tech stuff. First of all, I was not familiar with Zoom at that time. So I need to figure out the tech stuff and then create a course that shared everything that I learned and everything that I wanted to share with people. Um, a resource that I didn't have when I was, trying to figure it out and trying to get into the business. So I created that course and it just grew from there. And I started doing coaching and mentorships and private and group and all the things and seeing and what actually inspired me to continue doing that was all the success stories that I saw from my students, like getting the agents and getting the publishers in just a fraction of the time that it took me, which was super motivating and inspiring and encouraging and all the things, just very satisfying to see that kind of success with them. So, yeah, I keep doing that.
Hey, and we need the world needs more. There are just armies and armies of people out there, and I interact with them weekly. Whole groups of authors, mostly self-published. A couple do some of those hybrid publishing. A couple, but I'm in all these little authors groups, and it's quite a journey. And the whole agent thing, quite an experience, as I mentioned to you. Um,
Mhm.
I'm, I read, I studied, I did all the query letter stuff. I made just one tiny little mistake as I send out 180 query letters. The mistake was I wrote a wonderful book, got a Kirkus store, but before I sent it to Kirkus, it was unedited, and
Mhm.
that's what I presented to the agents, an
Mhm.
unedited manuscript with 30 mistakes on the first page. So
Yeah.
I was dead in the water
Mhm.
because I didn't
Mhm.
know better. I should have known better. And then I went ahead and had a wonderful, amazing editor do her magical thing with me, not changing my voice
Mhm.
and giving me a manuscript that I felt I could send it to Kirkus. You know,
Exactly. Yes. Hmm.
and it came back she got rid of 30,000 words that I didn't need. She never changed my voice, my style, which is unique.
Hmm.
And I was so confident. I said, you know what? I'll spend $500, send it to Kirkus. 3 months later, Kirkus store, boom.
Hmm.
So okay.
Okay.
Do I love this. Aspiring authors, face a tremendous amount of rejection. Uh, um, I live it. Um, how do you help them stay resilient?
Yes. Well, we try to avoid all of those mistakes in the first place because that could be very discouraging, right? When we rush sending out stuff that is not ready. And then, of course, we get those form rejection or we never hear back and we wonder what we did wrong and why is this so terrible and what happened and all these questions and confusion and disappointment and sometimes we just are blind to those mistakes and we can't even see them, so if we're not aware there's no way we can fix those. And that could take a long time. It took me many years to be on that journey and have that same experience. And I just at one point, several times, I was like on the edge of giving up because it was so disheartening and nothing was moving forward, and I wasn't sure what I was not doing right. Um, so we try to avoid those and prepare the writers with very polished manuscripts and very polished query letters and the right submission strategy and the right list of agents so that we're targeting and they're very prepared and can approach that with confidence because once you have all those pieces working together and really aligned, you're setting up yourself for success. instead of failure. So, and yes, rejections happen. It's not, we can't really avoid them 100%, but that could only mean, for the different reason, because maybe it's not a match, or maybe they have something similar, but at least the work is ready and polished, and eventually they do find a match. So that's the difference. And of course, I offer accountability and an encouragement and the right steps, so they do feel confident and not, you know,
Yeah.
even when the rejections come.
Yeah. Uh, sure. It's funny, on my go around, sending out 150, 180, whatever it was, half of the time you don't even get a rejection. You know,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
don't even get, so you wonder, you go through life wondering. Um,
Hmm.
so, what are some of the more common mistakes that people make when they're trying to publish their picture book?
Yeah, in terms of the manuscript, there's a lot of craft mistakes. Like they didn't probably spend enough time to develop their craft, and or they didn't get reliable feedback that could have improved their manuscript. The things I see is a lot of telling instead of showing. The characters are underdeveloped. There's plot holes. The beginning's not working. The ending's not powerful, satisfying. There's just a lot of things. And sometimes people are so close to their stories, they can't really see those. They're blind to those kind of mistakes, and they can't fix them, so they would send something like that. And for traditional publishing, really the work needs to be excellent and exceptional, in order to hook the agent and the publishing company. They invest the money, they produce a book, and there's a lot of competition, so it's really easy to just glance at something like that and automatically put it in the rejection pile. And you're right, like you said, sometimes they don't even have time to, or they don't even bother when it's that bad, to even send a form rejection, because they said, well, the writer didn't take the time to improve their work. Why should I take the time to even reply to them, right? So that goes in that pile, and you never hear back. It's a big black hole. Or sometimes it's just, yes, you will get a form rejection, but you don't even know why they rejected it.
Right.
So in terms of the craft, that's the some of the major mistakes that I see. And then query letters. Oh, also I forgot to mention formatting. Like, a lot of people don't talk about that, but that's a first impression, like visual first impression. And if it's not formatted according to the business guidelines, it's just it immediately communicates to the publishing professional that the author, again, didn't do their homework, right? They haven't done it, they haven't researched or learned how to format. And for me, when people send me stuff and I take a look, and it takes me like 3 seconds to see whether they have formatted correctly or not, and then that gives me a lot of information, right? So same for the publishing professional. But in terms of submissions, again, you said it yourself, just rushing and sending something that's not ready. The query letter is not giving them the right information or the right impression, and then the agent maybe is not even a match for that specific work. So again, they didn't read the guidelines, they didn't follow the guidelines. Maybe it's the wrong category, maybe their agent doesn't even represent that. And so a lot of these things, that or not having a clear strategy on what you're doing and why you're doing it, or how to leverage any outcome, all of these things matter, because you need all the pieces of the puzzle. If you don't have, even 2%, it's not 100%. So you have to give it 100%. And then that's how you increase your chance. You can't control traditional publishing, but you can give yourself the best chances of success. So those are the mistakes that I see, and
Yeah.
those are the mistakes that we fix when we work with clients.
Um, I never realized, well, I never realized because it wasn't in my world. But there's tremendous amount. It's a picture book for kids. I have two grandkids, so I'm constantly reading them books. And it's funny,
Mhm.
they always go to the same book.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
interesting. They have they visit us. We see them 3, 4, 5 times a week because they live a mile away, and I have books right there. I have a whole thing full of, but they pick the same book every time. But
Mhm.
there's so much involved. Just
Oh, yes. Hmm.
I mean, there's so much involved, and just a tiny. You think it's so simple and easy. A couple of pictures, a couple of words, but there's a whole science, and
Yes.
and I'm beginning to appreciate that. Another off-topic question. I have plunged quite a bit into AI,
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit, and AI is helping me now do some formatting. You
Hmm.
you said formatting. AI is helping me because I have four novels now that I need to short, not novels, four books. I need to write on my journey through life. And I'm working with a best-selling author who's going to guide me. But she exposed me on Friday to one of these AI programs. Wow. So your gut feeling, AI, a great tool, but you still have to kind of be careful of it.
If you're asking, for creative writing, absolutely not. You can't copyright that. It's not acceptable. Even for Amazon, if you decide to self-publish, they check, and if they, detect that it's been created, the content is created with AI, they would take it down. For traditional publishing, absolutely out of the question. They don't publish AI generated content. It's like I said, it can't be copyrighted. It's in the contract now. So the use of images, same thing. We don't, we actually, traditional publishing is very much against that. Absolutely out of the question. And I recently talked about that as well. It's not even ethical because, yeah, first of all, it's bad art. It's lazy thing to do, and it's stealing from other artists who are not getting paid for it. Yeah, in every a reputable publisher or publishing professional is against you know the usage of AI for creative writing or art, generating art with it. So yeah, as a tool, like you can check grammar, you can format whatever. We've been doing that for a long time. But yeah, there's a difference. So you can use it in marketing if you needed to, but so there's places where it's appropriate, and some that is absolutely out of the question. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when we were doing some formatting and she was asking it a million questions and it was spitting out and these types of stuff. I keep saying to myself, there's no way AI can get inside here for my life journey. And my life journey, it's called crystallized intelligence. So everything
Mhm.
I've lived and learned is stuck in here, and it's mine, and nobody can copy it. Nobody can. So I always know that AI has its limitations, but and some of the formatting and some of the things, it was quite fascinating. I'm not generally a big fan of it. Anyway, back to you. Back to I'm always curious about this because you have quite a journey through immigration to come here. How does your journey impact the way you coach new authors?
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, I coach with compassion because I know how hard it was for me, and how confusing it can be for people. Also, we're trying to create more books with diverse characters from different backgrounds, and have more of those books available on the market so that every child can see themselves in stories, or see other cultures and other characters that they may not be familiar with. And so um it's yeah, I do use my journey with, again, everything that I've learned, and I know what it looks like to learn the hard way, and how that can be improved. So I try to incorporate all of that, and even encouraging writers, because sometimes I know it's hard and they say, well, it's not going to happen for me, or it's taking too long. And I give them my own example. Like, if it took me so many years and so many obstacles that I had to overcome, as an immigrant, as English not being my first language, my native language, it's my fourth language. I went to French language school and I speak Bulgarian and I speak Russian, and it's like all these other things, right? And in a totally new country as an adult, starting a new life from scratch. So all of these things and obstacles, and just to inspire people and to encourage them to keep going. So yeah.
Nice story. Nice story. Um, just take a breath for a second, and I just want to go off topic and ask you one of my favorite questions. I kind of forewarned you. You don't have to answer it. It's simple. So here goes. Excluding a family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with.
Um,
And it could be a couple. There's no rules here.
okay. Okay. Hmm. Interesting. It's hard to pick when you put it that way.
I'm sure it
Oh, a lot
is.
of choices. Um, okay. I would be curious to spend a day with uh Oprah. And if I have to, if picking another person, the second person, that's it is tough. Um, hmm. Okay. Interesting. Um, okay, I'm gonna go with Oprah, but I'm
That's
gonna
fine.
reserve my yeah.
That's absolutely fine.
Mhm.
Absolutely fine. I did actually get a chance to meet her. Long story.
Oh.
Yeah,
Mhm.
long story. She was actually on Dr. Oz, and I was sitting in the first row because I had a VIP thing, and I wanted to get her attention, so I wore the craziest socks that I have, and she was literally sitting 5 feet away from me. So every time during commercial break, I used to kick my legs up and back and forth, pretending I'm just stretching my legs. And so
Mhm.
she could see and she did notice my socks, and she went like that. And the hope was that after we were shooting that episode, she was promoting a movie that she had produced, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and a book
Mhm.
and the movie. And my hope was she would come over to me afterwards. I get a chance to talk to her about my writing journey.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, during one of the commercials, she got up and left. And those were my
Mhm.
dreams shot. So anyway, I
Mhm.
actually did send her a picture of my socks, but I never heard from her. So
Mhm.
so be
Mhm.
it. All right, back to work.
And I'll say Meryl Streep. Why not?
Oh,
Let's go
sure.
with.
Okay. By the way, I was with her too.
Oh, wow.
That's funny you said that. I
Mm.
actually she was shooting a movie, and I was on set, long story. And when I looked to my right, there was Meryl Streep right next to me. So I started to talk to her and tell her I'm,
Mm.
a huge fan and blah blah. And it was
Mhm.
1998, and she was shooting a movie called oh gosh, it'll come to me in a second. But they were shooting this movie. It was a very powerful movie, and it's called One True Thing. And
Oh.
it's called
Mhm.
One True Thing. She was nominated for Academy Award. And while I'm talking to her, the production assistant thinks I'm part of that entourage. So he comes
Mhm.
over to me when I'm done talking to her. He comes over to me and says, "We need to place you now." So he takes me and puts me on set and says, "Do you know everything you have to say and do?" I said, "Yeah, it's been a long day. Why don't you just go over it one more time?" And boom, I'm in a movie with Meryl Streep.
Ooh, wow. Okay. Excellent. Good
That's
job.
funny. So you two people that you mentioned I've been with. And
Wow.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
funny stuff, Rosie. Funny
Mhm.
stuff. Um, why? and this I'd love to hear the answer. Why is traditional publishing still worth pursuing in today's self-publishing world?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I know that there are a lot of options right now, and people who are generally like, who isn't actually, impatient to see their work out, just go for the self-publishing route. But then, later on they realize, well, it wasn't everything that I hoped it would be, and maybe they're not selling the book is available, but it's not selling through, it's not selling to the public, and they're having all these obstacles, like of being into the mass market, the libraries and schools, and I'm talking about children's publishing in particular, school libraries and bookstores and all that. And so it's really disheartening. And then they still have to compete with all of the other books that are super professionally produced by the big five publishers and all of their imprints. And it's a tough competition to be, run against those books. So I would say it's still worth the wait, yes, and the patience, and the persistence and all of that, because the book is vetted, the book is produced up to the highest standards, and it's great quality. There are whole teams behind the book of art designers and award-winning illustrators, and also traditional publishing has all the channels of distribution and marketing, and the book will be everywhere. So yes, the author will be expected to participate and collaborate in marketing and promotions and be visible. But it's so much easier when the book is
Um,
already available on the market, and it's all the channels and all the um, distribution that they have. So yeah, and even in terms of journal reviews and reputable exposure, it's just a very different experience. So that's why I would say it's worth pursuing that.
and because I'm so immersed deeply into self-publishing, it totally consumes me. But I know, and it kills me because I know if somebody presses a button here or there, and I'm in 200 libraries because I have a Kirkus Star, and
Mhm.
but I have to do that myself. So it would be nice if there was a mechanism to. Uh, by the way, another because you're immersed in that world. Uh, Somebody who gets a Kirkus Star that never got to an agent, can they in turn resubmit and do query letters all over, even though it's quote self-published? That's not going to work, is it? Yes, no?
Out of the question, but that author needs to have like a good reason to submit that book. If they did something impressive and in terms of sales, then that could be attractive to the traditional publishing world. Otherwise, the book has already been out there, and if it's not selling, it's hard to pitch it as, "Hey, I tried it on my own and it
Right.
didn't sell. So now can you invest money and publish it?" You know, on your dime. So it's like, why would we do that? The book is already out there and it's not selling. So we're not interested in publishing it. So that would be, the thinking. But yeah, if it did impressive in sales and you just wanted the channels, then, and to reach more, a broader audience, then that would make more sense. But there has to be some kind of hook for them because it is a business decision for
Of
them
course.
as well.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, with self-publishing, you're right. You have to wear all the hats. You have to be your own marketer, your own distributor, your own designer, and copyright. Everything is on you, or you have to hire people and still pay them. With
Correct.
traditional, they pay you advances and royalties and hire the teams and the professionals. And then, yeah, it's a different, like I said, very, very
No,
different experience.
I dream of that someday, maybe my next writing venture. Um, you say your program can save, and I can see this, can save years of trial and error. Um, so how do you do that in your program to save? And I could see it. I feel it.
Yeah, it does because yeah, like it took me years to figure it out and then make all the mistakes and see what's not working. And when I put my course together and my coachings and teachings and trainings and all that, it's a step-by-step system with all the elements that I wish I knew I knew, right? Because it's not just one thing and then on your own. Because I did take many classes and courses and went to conferences and workshops and all that, but it would just give me just a partial information, not the big picture, not the steps, not the system. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create a unique, like comprehensive resource that had all the steps from idea all the way to submission and getting an agent and publisher. So that's why it's working. And the proof is, like I said, in many of the writers who are going through the system and able to publish and find agents in months, sometimes weeks, what took me 12 years. So compared to that, it's a huge, you know, huge difference in investing time and money, which I did invest a lot of money throughout the years, right? So that's how it's taking them to their goals much faster and easier.
Okay. I like this question too. I have my own notion of this. What role does community play in an aspiring author's success? The sense of community.
Yeah, community is really important because it could become really lonely, and when you're discouraged and you think, "Oh, this is only happening to me," and no one else is experiencing that. Where the truth is, like everyone is going through rejections and doubts and mistakes, and it's just it's hard to overcome on your own. But when you have the community and sometimes accountability or just support, and they're going through the same thing, um, and you feel that connection and it keeps you going. So yeah, community is just really crucial for everything with this journey, no matter where we are, at the beginning, middle, even after you publish, you still need your community to support you. So yeah.
I I I met this amazing woman, Kay Wagner. She's a best-selling author in her own right, and she has a community of authors
Mhm.
called Bold Authors Network, and we meet on Mondays.
Mhm.
And there's a whole collection of authors in there, and we're a community, and
Mhm.
we're all a self-publishing community. Although as I mentioned, there's a couple of hybrids thrown in there, but basically self-publishing. But it's a great feeling, and there's such great uh, um, sharing of emotions, sharing of journey, sharing of techniques, sharing of everything, and it's a great community because we have this tremendous bond. We're self-published, and Kay does amazing stuff. And we're going to spend literally a chunk of tomorrow talking about real estate on Amazon. And I'm not talking about real estate buying houses. I'm talking about real estate for an author and
Mhm.
what's available, and that's hours and hours of community. So community is a great thing on whatever side of the fence you're on. Um, um, so how do your students go from like being stuck and unsure to confident and like agent ready?
Yes. Well, they gain the clarity with the steps that I provide. First, improving their craft, which is absolutely always the first step and the first focus, because there's no way around it. Craft is craft, and it needs to be learned. And you mentioned before, like sometimes that could be, like, seem very simple. How hard can it be? Writing a short story and calling it a picture book, right? But behind that simplicity is real craft and real skill. And if you miss that, it's just not publishable and it's not marketable. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it a children's book, but if it's not, um, what the market is publishing today, and those books are very different. Modern books are very nowadays, they're very different from what we grew up with and what we knew before, and how writing was, and word count, and story structure, and all of the things. So if you're not familiar with that and you just want to write blindly, the likelihood is it's just not publishable, not marketable, even if it seems simple. So yeah, the first step is always the craft, and then the clarity on how to navigate the business. A lot of writers just write out of passion and they want to publish, but they're not savvy on the business side of it. And it is a business, and
What's a
traditional publishing,
business?
like I said, they do invest in you a lot. As for a picture book, it's somewhere around $50,000 to produce a picture book. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of money. They need to make sure they will, earn that back, and make some profit, right? So that's why it's so selective and it's so competitive. And yeah, once you have the craft and the right submission strategy and the business knowledge, and you navigate that, it's much easier than going blindly into the business and not knowing what you're doing. So that's what the system is.
Okay. It's funny. My mother, when I was a little kid, used to read me a picture book, uh, and it was about a circus and setting up the circus, and the pink sky and all. And I still, from time to time, get jolts of memories of that book.
Mhm.
Like I'll
Mhm.
see, the sunrise in the morning in the pink sky, and I'll remember my mother reading me that book and showing me the pictures. So it's funny. My wife was a teacher. I always meant to ask her. It really had impact, and still has lasting vestiges of that
Mhm.
picture book that my mother read me a long time ago. Interesting stuff. Um,
Mhm.
what's your favorite, Rosie? What's your favorite success story from someone who came through your coaching? I'd love to hear that.
Oh yeah. Oh, how do I pick? So many. From the very beginning, I have my very first students who took my program and my mentorship. One of them is about to release her third book. She is Blair. She's represented by Top Literary Agent. So she's already an award-winning author. And when she first started, working with me, um, she had just the very first um story that she wrote, and then from there we were working on her body of work and her submission packages and all of that. So now she's at this level. Another one of my clients, she got a 7 book deal for her debut picture book series. Just recently, within the last couple of weeks, I have two clients who got an agent, signed with an agent. Um, One of them she just completed the program, and within 9 days she signed with an agent, with a literary agent. And the other one, she was not new to writing. So she had been writing for a long time and read all the books and went to all the workshops and everything, all the memberships that, there were for children's literature, and then still wasn't able to break into publishing. She had all those form rejections, or not even hearing back from any of the submissions. And she is not even completed with the program. And um, she sent a query letter to an agent, and the agent replied within 2 hours asking for a phone call to talk about her career
Oh,
and her work and everything.
wow.
From being completely silent for years and years and years, and getting to a reply within 2 hours, that was a huge thing.
Wow. two
Yeah.
hours.
Mhm.
I'm starting to get depressed. Well,
So yeah, that's what I'm talking. That's what could be the
yeah,
different, the difference that it makes.
right, right. And doing it the right way, and the coaching, your whole coaching. I worked for a billionaire, uh, and the son was a billionaire too. And one of the things that he used to preach, was do it now, do it right. And and
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
my whole writing journey, I did it now, but I never did it right. Um,
Mhm.
and
Because we only have one chance to make a first impression, right? We don't have a second chance of making a first impression. And once you send that to an agent, you can't come back and say, "Hey, I corrected it. Now look
Yeah,
at it again." That's already gone, that.
fun.
And how many times can you even do that? So it's really important to be prepared. Take your time to be prepared with everything, and then act rather than having the regret of, "Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
do it right," right?
Right.
So, mhm.
It is what it is, I did what I did.
Exactly. When we know better, we do better, right?
Yeah,
When
so
we
I'm
learn from our
learning.
mistakes. I did the same thing. Don't get me wrong. I did it many, many times over. That's 12 years until I got traditionally published. And I did try self-publishing too. And I did learn a lot from that as well, that it didn't work for me. It wasn't what I envisioned. It wasn't all, rainbows and unicorns. And then once it get published, it'll be a bestseller and I would, make it. But it that was not the case. So I've done it and I know.
What do you think the publishing industry needs more of right now? Because that's going through change. It's funny, when I published my first novel, literally within days and I did the whole query letter thing, and actually I did get a couple of callbacks, but
Mhm.
literally, Borders was closing, bookstores were closing, and it was at the precipice
Mhm.
of huge change in the publishing.
Yeah.
What do you think the publishing industry needs more of right now?
Yeah, it's sad to see a lot of libraries closing, a lot of school libraries closing. That is really, really unfortunate. And I think that is not right. Kids need to have access to libraries, and schools need the library. Um, and I say we need more of that, not, less. More arts incorporated in the educational system and publishing. I wish on a personal level, and I'm sure I speak for everyone, I wish traditional publishing was a little faster. It's a lot slower now in terms of, and I know the publishing professionals are overworked. That's another area of needing to improve things, so that everyone is working more efficiently and they're being compensated fairly. And there's a little bit of speed needed in traditional publishing. We sometimes, you could wait for a year to get a reply, and then even the publishing process is long. For a picture book, it takes anywhere between 18 months or more, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 3 years, if they're all um filled
Wow.
with their lists for that season. So that's what we're looking at. Even if you got a contract, I saw you made a surprise face, but yeah, if you get a contract today, you don't expect your book to be available, um, you know, until maybe 2027. So that's what we're looking at. And I wish that were faster, this process were faster, and it's just yeah, but more diverse books, more books of any kind on the market.
Now let's talk about your personal books. I'm holding here. I know from my little research that your book, Sunday Rain, got all kinds of awards, and it's behind you. And I know this is being released as we speak.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. So talk a little bit about your own personal writing and your journey and where your ideas come from and what you've done and what you're gonna do.
Yeah, sure. Well, ideas come from everywhere, anything and everything. And mostly, like a lot of my books have elements from my own experience, like that would, start the idea, and then the story would evolve and be its own story. It's not just a pure reflection of my own factual life experience, but yeah, it's nice to have that little element because that's how we're connecting. That's how we're making our stories very personal. and at the same time, able to appeal to a broader audience. Um, and yeah, so Sunday Rain was one of those books that was featured in the New York Times, and got some awards, and it's really sweet and special story for me. And I was able to be paired with an amazing illustrator. So yeah, that book has had a lot of success. It's um, translated into Arabic, so it's available for that market as well by a wonderful publisher. And yeah, I'm super excited about that story just to see how that turned out. My latest one is, yes, as you mentioned, Sally's Musical Tale. And it's a story about an ambitious snake who is dreaming of playing the piano. And even though everyone is telling her it's hands down impossible, she is so determined that she wants to find a way to realize her dream. And that's kind of my personal experience of perseverance, and everyone thinking this is like kind of like an impossible dream. Why, it just doesn't make sense. How would I be an author one day? But I was just always a writer, and that was I got obsessed with that idea, so I wouldn't let go. And eventually I did find a way, even though it took me a lot of time and a lot of effort. But just to say, like, kids, don't give up and follow the big dream, even if people are saying that's silly or impossible or whatever they may say, right? I've heard it all in my own life. So just don't let go if that's your dream. And yeah, I'm excited again with this illustrator. I can show you some of the art
Yeah.
inside. Let me show you. Yeah, so it's just very colorful and very beautiful. And then I have the School of Failure, another one that won awards, and it was and loved by teachers and parents, and just making mistakes and accepting failures as part of the journey. So yeah.
Well put. And this has been a really, for me, a really special. You've given me such insight. I didn't have a lot of insight because I didn't have a lot of guidance. I just threw stuff on the wall. So this has been a really precious time spent with you and listening to your words and your journey and self-publishing, traditional. I mean, it was like perfect. And it's funny, when I'm given the assignment and I didn't delve deeply. I saw your name up there and we set up a time. And then, a few days ago I started and I'm saying, oh wow, boy, talk about relevant and pertinent and like for me, to my journey is similar to your journey. And so this has been great, Rosie, and I can't thank you enough. And uh, um, I'm you can always come back. You can bring some authors back. We can do panels. I love interacting with authors, whether they're traditional or not. I'm an author, and you're in a special club. It's
Yep.
really unique, special club. And it's funny when I became an author, and I would say, people say, "What did you do?" Well, I used to sell eyeglasses. I'm an author now. It's like, oh wow, you're an author, and it's a
Mhm.
wonderful feeling for me to say that. So,
Yes.
thank you so much, Rosie, for being so gracious and giving of yourself and your time, and hopefully to be continued. So,
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
so I'm gonna stop recording. Don't leave. We're gonna just do a 2-minute wrap, but thank you so much.